Welcome to On Texas Football. Time for the Saturday conversation. And I'm very happy to have a guest that really needs no introduction to Longhorn fans. 158-48 during his time in Austin, 162 consecutive weeks in the AP poll, 9 straight 10-win seasons, 1 national championship, 1 national coach of the year, member of the College Football Hall of Fame. Welcome to the Saturday conversation, Coach Mack Brown. How you doing, Coach?
Doing great, Bobby, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope everybody got what they wanted out of Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Appreciate it. Saturday conversation brought to you by our friends over at Duck Camp. Coach, I got to ask you, college football, you're one of the elder statesmen of it and have been, is in an odd state for right now, whether it's NIL, whether it's transfer portal, what have you. I want to start by asking you this. What are your thoughts on it? How do we fix it? Do you have any good ideas? Or are there things that don't need fixing? I mean, you don't want to, go back to where there's no NIL because that's part of the equation now. What are your thoughts on the state of college football? And again, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bobby. It's I think it's a real mess. There's some real positive things. If you think about in my last 4 years, there's been more changes than in my first 43 or 44 years because you go through COVID. None of us knew what to do with COVID. And the coaches that handled it the best won. So you could either gripe about it or you could manage it. And that's what you have to do. And then we get the transfer portal. And then you get NIL. All of us agree that the players need to be paid. And that was coming. Should have happened 25 years ago, and we probably wouldn't be in the mess we are right now if it had been gradual, if it had a plan. But what we did, we made decisions without looking at the consequences. And all of a sudden, you've got transfer portal, which is good. If a guy's not playing, Joe Burrow, he's a third, fourth team quarterback. He transfers and wins the Heisman. So there are some really good things out of the transfer portal. There are also consequences when you can transfer 5 times because a kid will just quit, and it's not what we need. So when we started looking at these things, we just said, let's let the kids transfer. Let's give the kids money. Well, how do you give them money? How do you distribute the money? How do you make it better? I'm talking to ADs across the country, and the ADs like Chris Delconte, who have been aggressive with NIL, are the ones that are winning. And they've said right now there are no rules that keep us from paying players. So let's go pay the best players we can and get the best roster. That's smart. That's what they're doing. That's why Chris Delconte is the most aggressive and best athletics director in America. And Texas is so lucky to have had the lost odds for 30-something years, and now Chris Delconte. So you look at those teams, the teams that are going to be in the end here, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, they got money. They've got money. Now, just having the money doesn't mean you're going to win because you've got to recruit the right players still that fit you. And then you've got to develop them. And with a locker room full of different salaries, you've got to be able to manage your locker room. So I think, Bobby, where we're headed, and we need to go fast, and I'm not sure we're going fast enough for all of us, we're headed toward a NFL model. We're headed toward collective bargaining. We're headed toward salary caps. We're headed toward player unions because you can't just keep paying players a ridiculous amount. And now contracts are all over the place. If he leaves, is he going to have to pay a buyout now like the coaches do? I mean, there's so many things that are out there right now that are uncertain. The transfer portal window, should we have 2 or should we just have 1 after spring practice? If you have 1, should it be during the playoffs? Should it be during the bowl games? The Penn State quarterback, the other day, the backup quarterback, the starter decides to stay. So all of a sudden we're sitting here and he says, well, I want to start. If I can't start next year, I've got to transfer. Well, we're in the middle of the playoffs. Well, I got to go, though. The portal closes on the 28th. So the young man's in a tough spot. And that's really, really difficult for him. And I even worry, Bobby, some about mental health we're putting too many decisions on families and young people now than ever before about money. I got to get my money, and maybe I'm not going to be a great NFL player, so I got to get my money now. So, and tampering is unbelievable. And people are just calling them on their team and saying, I'll give you this much if you get in the portal. And when we let agents get involved, there is no control.
Is it just blatant?
Yes.
In your opinion?
Yes.
It's just straight over tackle. They come in and say, we'll give you this much if you go here, X, Y, Z.
Very few great players are getting in the portal without knowing that they have options. And that's through the agents.
Yeah,
so the coaches aren't talking to the kids, they're talking to the agents. So
let me ask you this, fixing it. Just take this. Do you adapt an NFL model and try to live within that? How do you, is it collective bargaining? Is that the tool? Because everybody keeps, here's my problem. Everybody keeps saying, oh, well, we need we need something from the legislatures to come about and give us all kind of a broad sweeping legislation that allows us to operate. I don't see the legislature helping this at all right now. And I think that we keep pushing it on the senators and the congressmen, and they keep pushing it back onto the NCAA. So how does somebody at the NCAA or these member schools get together and say, this is how we go forward without the help of legislation? Yeah. I mean, that seems to be my issue. They're not being proactive enough. They're trying to get Congress to act, and Congress saying, why should we do it? Everybody's making money. It's America. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah. One of the other problems I think with Congress, Bobby, is the boosters at the schools that are having all this money like it.
Yeah,
they're better off than everybody else. So we've lost our parity. We're going to have a group and then everybody else, and realignment's kind of doing the same. So Congress, the people that are voting for them, that are the huge boosters at these top brand schools, are saying, man, don't change anything. This is good. We like this. So they need to get reelected. So we've got to get the smartest heads together, and we've got to figure out what's best for college football. And that includes the kids. That includes their families. That includes fans. I mean, we're being tougher on fans when USC's playing Rutgers.
Yeah.
We're being tougher on fans and kids when we're not finishing the season until January 20th. And these kids will lose Christmas. They have games at the end of their finals on one semester. They're going to have games at the beginning of their semester on the next side. And they won't have a January 1st. So we are an NFL model, so we might as well go ahead and admit it and just go to that model with a salary cap, have the universities paying the money, get rid of the collectives, because that's where all the confusion is and where the 12 million comes in and the 10 million comes in. And let's make coaches do what the NFL coaches are doing. And we had 2 or 3 NFL guys on our staff, and they were talking about, no, if the left tackle asks for so much money, and then you can't keep the right guard and the right tackle, you've got to make a decision. Do I let the left tackle go to keep the right guard and right tackle, or do I pay the left tackle and find me another right guard and right tackle at a lesser price? So that's what coaches are having to do. And then you've still got to manage your locker room. So it's all different and changed. And revenue sharing, I understand that the kids should get part of that revenue. And again, you better have a president that's all in, and Texas has got that. You better have an athletics director that's aggressive and forward thinking, and there's nobody more forward thinking than Chris Del Conte, and he's done an amazing job with the game day experience, with the money, with all the sports. It's been fun to watch because I worked for Chris before I left to go back into coaching. It's amazing what he's done. And then you take a coach like Sark, he's the perfect fit now. He's got 2 mentors in Pete Carroll and Nick Saban, who have got NFL experience and have won national championships and been in playoffs. He's worked for Nick while they were doing that. He is in a position where he was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. So he understands salary caps. He understands the playoff system. And now It's going to take, to me, it's going to be a great advantage for people like Sark who have been there and done that in learning to practice when you've got 10 days and you've got so many games out there and you've got to win the next one and stay about the process. And I remember when we beat Oklahoma in 05, everybody was talking about national championship. And I said, whoa, baby, we're playing again this week now. Let's slow down. And that's what Steve's doing right now. He's saying, okay, take a deep breath here, because he got there last year. But when you're like Steve and you're getting in, I used to say, you buy a house in the neighborhood of the national championship, you're going to win it. I don't know when, but you're going to win it, because he's got he's established a great team. They play such great defense. He may be the best play caller I've ever seen. It's fun to watch what they do. And those kids are playing hard, and they play with confidence. So I really, really like what I see out of Texas from the top, from the president. That obviously, with my experience there, the regents have to be so supportive, but the regents to the president, to the athletics director, to the football coach, and then the entire athletics program, I think they've got it going as good as anybody in the country.
Coach, you just talked about Sark a little bit, and I wanted to ask you this because what is a team? You've done this. You've made a run for the national title a couple different times. What's a team and a coach going through right now? I realize it's a little different because they didn't have the playoffs like you were doing it, but there was kind of a miniature playoff with OU and the Big 12 championship. And then what's a coach and the team going through right now as they look forward to a game like this that they're going to have on Wednesday?
Yeah, Bobby, we had to beat Ohio State, because one of us would probably have a chance to be playing for the national championship, and that was the second game up there, and they had not lost an out-of-conference game. They had not lost a night game. So we knew to play for a national championship that we had to beat Ohio State. And then we had not beaten Oklahoma for a while. So we knew, regardless of who's the best team in that game, we still had to win that game. And that's when we adopted the saying, take dead aim, because we were taking dead aim on the national championship. And we weren't, as Vince Young said, we're starting second. Only way we can go is up to first. And then I'll never forget, and this is kind of what Sark's going through now. I walked in after a home game, I think it's Oklahoma State, and I look and all of our players are around the TV. They should have been celebrating. And they're watching Notre Dame and USC, and it was the Bush push at the end of the game, and they wanted USC to win. And when they scored at the end of the game, our team just went crazy. And I said, what are you doing? They said, Coach, we want to play SC. We want to play SC. Sally, even after the Oklahoma game, she had some T-shirts with the roses on them. I said, slow down, people. I mean, I'm the one responsible for us playing Oklahoma State next week, or us playing Kansas, or us playing Iowa State on the road. So what Sark's trying to do is stay with the process. Let's don't look past anything. We're playing a one-game season. And if you lose it, you're done, and you go home. So don't start thinking about next week. Don't start thinking about what's out there. Don't start thinking about the end, because that's when you get beat, is about the time you think you can't. When you think in sports it can happen and you lose a little of your focus, that's when it happens. So Sark's telling them, you've got to play your best in Atlanta. And it's set up perfectly. You go to Atlanta, then you go back to Dallas, then you go back to Atlanta. We've already been in Atlanta. He coached in Atlanta. So there's a lot of positive things going here, but the pressure is on Texas, and he knows that. Arizona State knows that. Nobody expects them to win, so they'll come in and they'll go for every fourth down and fake every punt, and because they've got nothing to lose. And that's what Steve's doing. He's talking to his team about, let's be us. We haven't played our best game yet. Let's put it all together. And to win at the end here, you have to be the best team, and you have to put it all together. You can't have a bad day.
Special thanks to Duck Camp for sponsoring College Football Playoff Week. Duck Camp is made for the people that live for the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, and football to watch. They like doing all that stuff, so they built a company centered on it, based in Austin, and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. Duck Camp has been tested from the backcountry of Alaska to the Dove Fields of Texas. It's ready to keep you warm and comfortable on these cold winter days. Give them a shout, duckcamp.com. That's duckcamp.com. Be sure to check out the new mallard hat and pointer hat in the clay colorway, pretty much our cherished burnt orange color. Here's the great seasons, y'all. Yes, hunting and football. Shop hunting gear at duckcamp.com. Coach, a lot of people are comparing your early rise at Texas and how you built that program, highly ranked recruiting classes, big name quarterbacks, re-energizing the fan base like you did. Still one of the most amazing things I've seen as a Texas person in my time was your re-energizing the fan base was just phenomenal. From afar, because you were busy coaching this year. From afar, what have you seen about Sark and what he's doing that you really like? You've mentioned some of that, I think, already, but is it the talent? Is it the offense? Is it just a combination of the development of players? Is it all of that kind of makes sense nowadays?
It's everything. As I said earlier, Bobby, I think he's the perfect fit. He's been a head coach at two major universities, so he gets the pressure.
Yeah.
He understands that coaching at Texas is a total privilege. It was an unbelievable experience for me for 16 years. And the fans were absolutely a game changer. And it was just, it's so much fun. And people call the expectations at Texas way too high. Well, it's not, because you get everything you want. I remember I was worried about jackets for recruiting when I was at North Carolina, and they had just gotten the jackets, and I was leaving. I got to North Carolina, and I walked in, asked Chip Robertson, the equipment manager, do we have a budget for these jackets? Or are we okay with our budget? And he said, Coach, you don't have a budget here for football. I said, really? I like this already. This is fun. And then, of course, DeLoss Dodds always used to say, yeah, I gave you an unlimited budget and you went over it. So that was, but you have a chance at Texas to be great every year. And that's the pressure that's on you. And what I've seen with Sark is he's handled it. Not everybody can coach there. And a lot of people can't handle the constant scrutiny and the constant pressure. And if you think you can, when you get there, you got to. And there were times I didn't handle it as well, because you're mad. You're mad after a loss, and you say things that you wish you didn't have back, and those keep popping up. You said, no, that was 4 years ago. That wasn't yesterday. But you learn. And I think he's really learning how to manage the place, how to enjoy the place. There is no better place in America to coach than Texas when you're winning. When you're not, it's tougher. And I mean, if you're winning 8 or 9, it's not fun. That's very honestly.
That's why you won 9. That's why you won 10 games 9 years in a row. It'll keep you on your toes, right?
And then we got mad at 10. So that's just part of it. But I think he's the perfect fit, and I credit the entire process for figuring that out and getting for him. And I credit the fans for giving him time.
Yeah.
You know, they have stood in there, it looks like, from afar, and I'm a fan of his. I really like him. He's fun. He's very respectful of me, and I just really admire what he's done. I like watching him call a game, but the thing he's done that impresses me more than anything else, I grew up on offense. John Mackovic grew up on offense. He grew up on offense. He's got one of the best defenses in the country, and I love watching their defense play. And those guys are physical and tough, and they got the big running back at Arizona State. It's hard to run the ball against Texas.
Yeah,
and
I can't wait. I can't wait for that. Look, you talk about taking you back to when you first got to Texas and some of the things that are going on. I look back at it, and it really was a great time to be at Texas and watching Texas, because you had your major rivals at that time. A&M had R.C. Slocum when you came in. It was a young Bob Stoops, right? And then even out in West Texas, you had a guy named Mike Leach. It kind of kept everything fun or in greater perspective, right? How did you kind of successfully carve out your niche within that? Because obviously Texas is, the institution of the first class, et cetera, all that stuff. How did you lean on that and make Texas different from those places? I mean, obviously with a lot of success.
Bobby, feel like the most important thing to start with is a fit. And I really felt like I was a fit at Texas. Mike was a fit at Texas Tech, as
Yep.
weirdly as it was. He wasn't Spike,
Yep.
but probably nobody could take Spike's place but Mike in his unique way. And I would sit and listen to Mike just to sit there and be amazed. I mean, he would just he'd tell me stuff, and I'd say, "Really? Are you kidding me? Come on, man! You don't really think that, do you?" And I think he did. I mean, I really think he did. He told me after one game, we were way ahead, and they kind of caught back up as a 58-42, one of those Texas Tech games where he went for 13 fourth downs or something. After the game, he comes up and he hugs me and he says, "Listen, I'm gonna gripe about the officiating and say you and Texas control it all because we got beat. I don't want the fans on me. So it's not really true and it didn't really happen, but don't get mad at me, but I'm going to do it anyway." And I said, "Go do what you want." He goes in and says, "Those officials, they're Brown, they're Texas. And then those Texas Tech fans are, he's so right, man." And they fined him $10,000 and the Texas Tech fans paid for it. So, I mean, that's just Mike Leach. That is in a capsule. And then when I saw him next time, he said, "Thanks." It kind of got me off the hook that night. I said, I got it, Mike." Bob was a perfect fit at Oklahoma. He did a great job. He came in and he and I were very competitive. We were more the same age, and I didn't know Bob. And RC he was Texas A&M. And RC was a dear friend of mine before I got to Texas. So we actually got on the phone before we started and said, "Okay, friends are friends. This is going to be tougher, but we're not going to fight. And we're not going to cut each other in recruiting. Let's try to make all the great players stay in the state of Texas." And that's what we did. And I said, if one of our coaches is cutting you guys, you call me and tell me, and I'll tell him, "Shut up." And the same thing. And then RC would always call and say, "Houston's got this speaking engagement, and they said you agreed to speak if I would come." And I said, "Nope, hadn't talked to him." So RC to this day is just a very dear friend, and Bob's a good friend now. And of course, we lost Mike, and I hated that for all of us because he was a treasure.
Gotcha. Coach, some quicker questions, I guess I should say, for you here. You still keep in contact with some former players of yours at Texas?
Oh, yeah, most of them, all the time. It's so much fun. It's one of the great things for me, Bobby, with Twitter and Facebook. I can like what they do, or I can put a little comment, or I can text them. I don't talk to them as much, but watching Colt be on TV, it's fun for me. Or I'm watching Fozzie and Lowell Galindo, and I'll say two of my favorites, and while they're on the broadcast, and it's just a lot of the young players bring their kids now to our camps here, and I get to see them. Some Quan Cosby's come to a game, so it's really fun to just stay in touch with a lot of the guys.
That's awesome. I got to ask you, best player. This is a question I've been dying to ask. Best player at Texas for you that not enough people or fans talk about. The best player that not enough fans. You know what it is. I mean, you can't say Vince Young to this, or Jamal Charles, or Cedric Benson, or those guys. It's got to be somebody that's kind of a little under the radar, but really, really good football player.
I would say I'm going to go guys like BJ Johnson, Sloan Thomas, because they were here with Roy Williams.
Yeah.
And Tony Jeffries. Those three didn't get near the pub that they deserved, and they were all really good. Tony catches that great pass at Kansas to win the game late. And BJ and Sloan, just we took them for granted because they made so many plays. Selvin Young. Selvin Young was really a good football player, wins a national championship, and Jamal Charles got a lot more pub than Selvin, but Selvin was really a good football player. David Thomas and Bo Scaife. We had such great tight ends at that time. And then Lyle Sinline, linebacker, plays at center for us, ends up starting 11 years after not even being drafted for the Cardinals. Casey Studdard, is a good offensive line in the national championship game. And Casey played a little bit with Houston, but didn't get a lot of attention as you start looking at those guys. So those are guys that just pop out without a lot of thought and but puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I was asking for, is those kind of guys. You know, they didn't get the PR that other people did, but they were part of key of what you did. Couple other questions for you. Texas right now, in this situation, you had to deal with it with Chris Sims, big name quarterback. Steve Sarkisian is dealing with it right now. Arch Manning. I remember this. You recruited Chris Sims and Eli Manning in the same year. Sims ended up committing to you. Eli went to Ole Miss. But what do you take of that and make of that? And how hard is that for a coach to kind of keep that focus on the here and now, as opposed to these big guy is coming down the pike kind of thing?
Yeah, Bobby, I remember we were going to get Eli.
Yeah, I know.
And Chris Sims had already committed to Tennessee, and Eli was about to commit to us, and then they hired David Cutcliffe, and he had coached Peyton at Tennessee, so Eli flipped and went back, and then we got Chris Sims, so it was just crazy. And Archie Manning's a great friend of mine, and I love all the boys. I don't know Arch as much, but I love Cooper, his dad, and we've played a lot of golf together and traveled together and had fun together, and I just love the Manning family. They are one of the families of college football, if not the family. And they're just all wonderful people, and they do a great job. As I look at it, it's Quinn Ewers may win a national championship. Got so close to winning one last year, and he's such a great player. We have our event, the charity MJ&M in Austin, and Quinn came to it last year and came down and hugged my neck and talked to me. And what a nice young man, and I was so impressed. And Arch will have his time. I think Steve's done an amazing job of putting Arch in some. When Quinn got hurt, Arch got to start 2 or 3 games, and keeping him ready to go and keeping him focused at practice, but letting the older one handle the pressure and letting him win the games right now is important. I wish I had done that more when Colt got hurt in the national championship game.
Yeah.
If we had played the other one more, then we would have been in a lot better place with him when he came in the national championship game, because we didn't prepare him well enough, and then he wasn't as prepared for the next year. So if we had played Garrett Gilbert as much as Steve is playing Arch, we would have been more prepared. And you're one play away from the next guy being the starting quarterback, and we lost a national championship because Colt got hurt. And if we'd had Garrett more ready, he was a tremendous player at that time, then we would have been in a better spot. So I really like what Sark's doing and how he's doing it with both quarterbacks. And I know that's uncomfortable at Texas. I made some stupid statement. I'm up in the mountains of North Carolina right now with my grandkids. And I remember when we were trying to play both of them and working out. It was one day I was out there fishing and I caught 2 trout at the same time. I thought, oh, that's great. I'll go back and say 2 trout are better than 1. So what about quarterbacks? Better to have 2 than 1. And it is better. All the teams that if they lose their quarterback in their bowl game or in the playoffs and don't have another one ready are going to get beat. So Sark's got it where he can play another quarterback that's high quality and still win the game if something happens. And I think that's brilliant on his part.
I got to ask you, you mentioned that national championship game. What loss of yours stings the most at Texas? Is it the national championship? Is it Texas Tech in 2008? That last second throw? I go back and I know all the wins. We all love the wins, but the ones that sting, are the ones you lost. Which is it? The national championship, Texas Tech, something else? What was it?
I think it would have to be Texas Tech, because we had a chance to win the game and nobody got hurt, and we just lost, and we should have won it. We're the number 1 team in the country and could have played for the national championship that year. In the championship game, I think we would have won it. Alabama had just beaten Florida, and that was nobody thought they were going to, and they did. And we didn't play well against Nebraska offensively, and Alabama couldn't stop the pass.
Yep. And
Colt was a 71% completion percentage passer, one of the best in college football. So, but there again, I put that on me. We should have had Garrett Gilbert ready to play, and we still nearly won the game. With Garrett coming in, we were within 3 points with 4 minutes left in the game. So there's no question in my mind we would have won the game. But those were circumstances. You get somebody hurt. You can't say how disappointing it happened. That's part of football. Texas Tech, nothing happened. We lost the game. We could have intercepted the ball late in the game. I was getting ready to call timeout right before we scored to let the clock run, and then call timeout right before the snap, and we scored, which I didn't think we were going to score to win, and we left a minute 24 on, so we left too much time on the clock for a Texas Tech team. And then we drop an interception. We kicked the ball off in the center of the field, which gave them a better return than they should have had. And then Earl Thomas has always told me he heard a whistle on the sideline when Crabtree caught the ball. And that's why he backed off. He thought it would have been a 15-yard penalty. So that one you wish you had back, because we should have beaten Texas Tech that night. And when you're the number one team in the country, you got to go win. And we just didn't do it. Gotcha.
Coach, I appreciate your time so much. Very gracious of you to spend your time with it. A lot of Texas fans will be listening to this this morning on Saturday morning. I've got to ask you one last question. What's next for you and Sally? Next stage of your life? What's your plans?
Well, Bobby, we're this isn't the model. The current model of college football is not what I signed up for 50 years ago. Yep. It's changed so much, and it's not as much fun for me. The game's fun, the kids are fun, but all the stuff, and you sure can't play at a school that doesn't have money for football and have a fair chance. So the last couple of years, our poor coaches have been fighting with I would tell them we're in a gunfight with a knife. So yeah. we're not in good shape. So this is a wonderful time for me to get out and look back and I want to stay involved with the game. I want to help. We're the 1st of January. We're moving back to Austin, so I'll catch up with all the players and my friends, and can't wait to get back and get around our friends and enjoy Texas football again, and all of our great friends. I can't wait to eat with Chris Del Conte and DeLoss and all the Olympic sports too. You know, you start looking at volleyball and baseball and golf, and they're all soccer, women's soccer. They're all friends of mine. So it's going to be so much fun to just reunite with everybody, even the letterman that didn't play for me, that played for Coach Royal or the other coaches. That's going to be so much fun. And then I'm still going to look at TV. They don't make those decisions till February after the Super Bowl. But I want to get involved with the game. I want to stay involved with the game. I love the coaches. I love the players that play it. I absolutely love the fans. And I want to be part of it, and I want to be part of fixing it. I don't know what that means, but I'm really, really excited about the next chapter. And I remember when I got to Texas, Coach Rowe was 72. And I'm 73, so it just goes back in my mind all the wonderful memories of him, and I think about him so often. He was so good to me, and older coaches gave back so much to me. So that's what I want to do. I want to be a person that gives back at this stage in my life, because I've had enough. I've done enough, and I don't need any of that. I don't need any of the recognition. All I want to do is help people like people help me. And that would be my purpose moving forward.
Coach, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the holidays with your grandkids. Tell Sally hello. I appreciate her everything that she's done for Texas throughout the years. And I know Texas fans, I would be remiss if I didn't say it, appreciate you a whole lot as well.
Well, thank you, Bobby. Tell the Texas fans I'm not going to the bowl game. So the grandkids got mad at me. They've been to 5 straight bowl games, and they said, Pops, we want to go to the bowl. So I brought them to the North Carolina mountains. We're having bowl week. We're having activities. They're wearing me out. We're watching every bowl game. We're all talking about it. So we are having a blast in the mountains. But as soon as we get through here, we'll head to Austin and can't wait to catch up with everybody out there.
All right, Coach. Hook 'em, man. Take care of yourself.
Bobby.